Welcome to the Intellectual Lifestyle Podcast. It's 2026. Happy Chinese New Year, everyone. Lunar New Year, Ed Meribach, and all that good stuff. We are here at the Rampant Gallery. I'm honored to be here with my co-host, AM, and my other two gentlemen here. Please introduce yourselves if you may.
Yeah, I'm Austin. I own and run Rampant Gallery here at the Go Farm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. And J. Michael Balmas, I'm a visual artist, and I have an exhibition up right now, Rampant Gallery, called In Due Time.
Amazing. Well, can we go into this? This is like a current thing right now. What is In Due Time? What is this gallery about? I'm seeing these amazing pieces and I'm really just enamored. I'm kind of just soaking them in as they're in the space, but it's very colorful and vibrant, and it's bringing me to a world, as it is right now. So if you would love to speak on that, I would love to listen.
Yeah. Jay, do you want to take it away?
Sure. So this exhibition is really kind of a culmination of the past, I guess 5 years or so, of my life. So a lot of transitions. I born and raised in New York, left New York after COVID, went to Los Angeles for 2 years, probably 2 years too long, and then relocated to Atlanta last year. So these pieces here, as you'll see as you walk through the gallery, you can kind of see what I was going through at that time. You can kind of see the black and white structural work, which is more kind of the New York vibe and where my art practice started. And then you get into more of the colors and floral kind of concept. And with the sunlight kind of coming through was where you see the LA work come in. And then the Atlanta is kind of a new take on my work, just kind of a new beginning, new kind of, new life that I'm building, which is really kind of where these colors and this more abstract work comes in, even with this one here, which looks kind of like clouds forming. I know it's hard to see because we're on a podcast, so you just say,
They can add it.
Yeah,
visualize and shots them.
but it's really just kind of the culmination of the work and just transitions in life in general these past few years. So In Due Time takes the title directly from the Outcast and Goody Mob song, In Due Time, which really talks about kind of growth and overcoming things and obstacles that come along in your life, which is really what this show represents. And just kind of, again, that change and just moving from one stage to the next and, taking on the new part of your life and just continuing the effort and growth to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah. So going along with what you're saying, I know all the titles of works in this show are named after songs that Jay was inspired by while creating the work. So you'll go through and be like, oh, I know that song. It's Float On is over there, Banquet. Yeah. What do we got here? Cruel World, Into Nirvana. So yeah, I loved when you first sort of pitched this show to me and said your work's heavily inspired by music, and that this show in particular would be heavily inspired by music. Jay also came up with a playlist to accompany the show that features all of the songs that inspired these works, and we were bumping that on the opening night. It was great.
Yes, that's real curation right there. Because it's funny, being an artist and a musician.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always realized, but being a neurodivergent, being experiencing with synesthesia, music isn't linear. Okay. It's a very vibrant, it's a very colorful expression. So when you have these pieces of work, and even in the classical sense, it does bring about a flow of music and just an energy and a vibrance. And I'm just getting so much vibrance just coming off of the wall, and that's what music is. That's what it does. So when you can curate it and have a soundtrack that explains that, you can almost look at the painting and hear a song. So yeah, and those are just great soundtracks, the songs that you mentioned. So that's what it does for me, and that's what Atlanta does. That's what LA and New York has done for me, these musical niches of pockets, when you talk about, Soho in that area, and me bumping into certain people in there and hearing certain songs and listening to music and getting inspired. I mean, I felt that, that when I'm in LA, you feel a different vibrance. You hear a song, you hear the Beach Boys, or you hear this, and when you're in this space in Atlanta is just culturally rich, so you'll hear and see a little bit of everything. And,
Yeah.
even on the walls, like from the graffiti, it has its own flavor to it. So,
And just to speak on I Loved It, that's really what kind of drew me to Atlanta. In general, the first time I visited here a couple of years back, I always been in town for either just the airport, connecting wise, never really had time in the city until a couple of years ago. What I really loved about it was always from afar. I mean, I've been an Outkast fan since hearing, Players Law on the LaFace Christmas record.
Yeah.
But my mother had that.
The OG.
So when I first heard that, wondering what that was and knowing it was a Christmas song, I was like this. So then I
I love that they made it a Christmas.
your
Players Ball,
they were produced in some way. So then since that moment, I just became, they've been my favorite group ever since. And their music just inspired me in so many ways, just creatively, just in general. And I was fortunate enough years ago to actually, my other profession is work in the fashion business in some capacity, in different ways over the years. And I did some styling for a bit. And the first project I got to assistant style on was for a magazine shoot for Outkast. So and it was the wildest thing I've ever experienced. I'm like, because I was meeting like these two guys that had literally helped me get through like my childhood growing up. It's inspired so much. And to get to meet them in person and then meet them and find out that they're the most two genuinely nice human beings you'll ever meet was just a huge inspiration in general. It's like, all right, it's good to know, like, never meet your heroes type thing. I got to meet my heroes. Yeah, like, this is great.
They were really cool.
I'm like, now I get help dress them.
yes, like
But with the music side of things is that it's always been something huge in my life, even when I was little. I mean, my mother was playing music constantly in the house, and growing up, it was always old Motown and a lot of reggae and R&B in general. I mean, it was like Maxi Priest and Shabba Ranks and Billy Ocean, like Teddy Pendergrass, and all of that music I grew up on. And my father was into classical music. So I had such a diverse mix of music in the house. And then my older sister was into like the hair bands. So like the Pit Library and White Snake and alternative stuff like Pearl Jam and all that. So I had this huge kind of music always flowing through me. But I was never musically inclined. I had no music skill whatsoever, but I always saw the connection to it. And as my art practice developed, I always used it as kind of an inspiration. So for me, I just shut off my mind and just kind of let the music go. So none of the pieces are ever premeditated. They're not sketched. There's never a concept in mind. It's just, I let the music kind of take me where I go. Yeah. And as I'm creating, if I start to see maybe a face or a structure or, a flower or whatever it is, I'll start creating that. But it was really the music that's inspiring me to do so. And that's kind of, again, too, why there's such a heavy influence within these works and within these pieces is this kind of the evolution.
It's funny, like, my background is I'm a musician, and I just, started this art gallery, in June 2024, kind of an outsider to the visual art world. I worked in film for a bit, but I have sort of had an equal and opposite experience, I feel like, where I've never felt particularly like talented as a visual artist myself, but I've been very drawn to it and inspired by it. And even, again, musically, like sometimes, I'm like really inspired by a particular piece of art for a song. I'm like, I'll see a painting and I'm like, this inspires me. Or I think the visual aspect is very important, especially nowadays with the way people consume music. A lot of times with, you're watching something on YouTube or even on Spotify, they've got the little like visualizer thing to kind of keep your attention. I think people are, they want all of their senses to be stimulated. And so that's why I love like, your exhibition, I think, does such a cool job of integrating those and truly making it like a multimedia presentation,
Appreciate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so crazy you say that, because I synonymize with both of those stories in such a
You
crazy.
said you do both, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I do both, and as well as the fashion. So it's like, growing up in skateboarding roots, right? That's my home, right?
Yeah.
So especially like coming from, you have music, sports, and you have medium of like arts, like print media. So you have all these things. Now I grew up musician. I always loved music. I could beat. Oh my God, on the table, make a beat. My dad's playing all these songs from Isley Brothers to like Jay-Z, Neptune's, Pharrell. And being from Atlanta, we were so like culturally, musically rich. Now, when it comes to visual art, I was also a gamer. I gamed so freaking much. I'm a Neo baby, so I'm like Neo 90s, 2000s.
What were you playing?
Oh,
were you?
God.
Were you?
Set Radio Future or
Okay.
Halo?
I was gonna say, are you an Xbox or a
But
PlayStation?
this is the thing.
Nintendo?
I had the best of all worlds though. Like, you know what I mean? So I was Xbox, PlayStation. Like I was talking to somebody, man, I had the fat TV. I used to have to plug like
Oh, yeah.
one station in the back of the TV, unplug it and then do that. You know what I'm saying? So I had every system. So I experienced it all.
LAN parties back in the day.
Exactly. Bring those
You
back.
pour your buddies over and play Halo on one TV together.
Talk about childhood, man, like boyhood, man, like that was everything. So it's like that's what exposed leads to like art. Now, what exposed me to visual art was the fact that I couldn't do it because I couldn't draw for a thing in my life. I had people in third grade, they used to draw Dragon Ball Z, like these characters just by hand. And I used to love it. And I used to be like so like jealous, like, oh my God, I can make music, but this is what I wanted. I want to be able to draw. So that niche, it kind of like, I have this thing where like anything I can pretty much put my hands on, I can figure out.
Yeah.
It's like a gift and kind of like a curse in a sense, but like, cause you become they say a jack of all trades is a master of none or something like that. But I just found out that that's not a derogatory like phrase, but we can cycle back into that.
I always tell people like ADHD is a superpower.
Oh, it definitely.
You can like, I used to struggle a lot with like, just like focusing, like finishing a project. But I realized if I have like multiple projects going on at once, then I can kind of like rotate from one thing to another.
Yep.
When I start to like get bored or like get sick of something, I'm like, oh, time to go work on this. Like, time to.
It's the puzzle theory. Like it's the puzzle theory that I have. Like even like I started coming up with this concept because like I also dabbled in sculpture as well too. So I had to like learn how to use my hands to accentuate with what my mind was doing too. So what I started doing was just being able to throw everything on a canvas and then being able to scale back, if that makes sense. So it's like you just paint everything, or you working with this like marble, and then you're just like chiseling out the vision. Hence like your abstract work that you were speaking. I really, I resonated with what you said there, because it's like, you see the Mona Lisa and you're just like, wow, how? But it's like, it's time, but it's also like you're dealing with like just inspiration. Where does it come from? That person may have been inspired by that beautiful day, that beautiful woman, to be able to paint that. But like in a canvas, sometimes you just feel the colors. You feel that rather than a face, rather than the shape. And then it comes out something so much as beautiful as this. And then you're able to just sit and digest so much of yourself into that color, into that line, that one stroke that you make, that decision took you somewhere, and then you like look at it tomorrow and you feel something totally different. And this is what I learned about like photography and lighting as well too. When lighting shifts, your perspective changes well too.
Yeah.
Cause it's a whole different thing. But my whole thing was just wanting to dabble in different arts. And Andre 3000 said the same thing. He's an amazing painter, amazing drawer. He said he thought he was gonna go to school for just drawing and arts. Kanye as well too, two Geminis. And, they ended up being some of the biggest musicians of all time. Mm-hmm. So it's more so, just, I think the whole thing is like your expression, and versus like, it's your expression, also like your need, because those two artists have a very like huge like responsibility in this like culture of like art. And if it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now in that sense. So, it's just medium, in that aspect of that for me.
Yeah.
Because you can dive into anything, at any given point. I think it's just like a niche of where your focus aligns, in the story of the culmination of everything, like I was walking outside and looking at the file cabinet. It was like, man, I remember coming here years ago, and this was just a flat, it was a flat thing.
Yeah.
Now it's this in an architectural standpoint, but it's a staple, in the center of all of this, and it means something. So I just thought that was like super cool, and like seeing how this whole thing like culminates in this is so freaking dope.
Yeah. Going off of what you were saying about Jay's work too, like something I think is really interesting about your painting, because with your black and white stuff, you have a really like kind of distinct like line work, very like detailed. But then I feel like your painting, you sort of almost go for the opposite. It's more like a little more like abstract and like. I know you've said that you don't use paint brushes. You use like everything else. Yeah, it's like paper towels, fingers,
Other papers, my hands.
oh, yeah. Which I love that because that's
Had in the apartment or in the studio. All
that's so like pure to me.
But you'll see, like anything you'll see in the abstract work that's more like straight line, a little bit more fine. That's all done with acrylic paint, but it's acrylic paint marker. So it kind of gives me that same mind feel that the black and white abstract work does. Excuse me. So it kind of all started with the black and white work to begin with as well. This is kind of I've told this story so many times, but this is like a short, long story, I guess, in a way. So the black and white work, how that all started was when I was 14, I was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, so type 1 diabetic. And when I was recovering from the hospital, I was always an active kid outside playing sports, running around and everything. And I was recovering. I was in the house, just kind of getting used to it all. And my mother was an artist and designer, so she had all these supplies around the house. So I grabbed some Sharpies and just started drawing some things just to pass the time. And then 17 years later, I was home on a weekend visiting. And I just moved into a new apartment back in New York. And I remember she had pulled out these drawings that I was a kid. And she found them like in, just in her stuff. And I was like, wow, these are actually kind of cool. Let me bring these back and hang them out. And then a couple of days after that, I had some friends over, and my wife was like, wow, those are cool. Like, what's the artist? Where'd you get those from? Asked me those questions about it. And I told her, I drew these when I was a kid. She's like, you should start drawing. Yeah, you have a talent. Like, you should need to pick this up. And a little bit after that, I was reading Complex magazine back when it was in print. And I remember there was an advertisement in there for the Bombay Sapphire Artisan Series, which was a nationwide competition broken down to kind of 5 regions. It was sponsored by Bombay Sapphire and Rush Philanthropic, which
Wait, the brand, right? The brand. What else?
and Rush Philanthropic, which was Danny Simmons' nonprofit for the arts.
Interesting.
And they were basically looking for, next undiscovered artists in mixed media, visual art, photography, whoever it may be. And they would pick 20 finalists from each of the regions. And then the winners there would then show at Art Basel as like the grand champion. So I don't know why I got the urge to submit the work. So these pieces that I'd done as a teenager, I submitted to this competition. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email that I was picked out of thousands of entries as one of the 20 finalists to show in the New York City finalist exhibition. So I didn't know what the hell to think about that. Yeah, cool. The night before the show, I'm in there with the curator and all the other artists, and they're coming up to me. These are professional artists, like some of them at MFAs, like properly trained, amazing visual artists. And they're asking me, what was my training, my background, all these things. And I'm like, I got a degree in economics. I work in the fashion business. My duties went out to kid. Like, I just did not. Yeah, I did not feel right. A homie with gun space. Yes. And what was great though was the next night, the opening. This is what I loved about it. This is really what got me to stay, in the art practice, was that it brought all my different friend groups together in one place. Yeah. That may not have met each other over the years. A couple of them may be like different events, what have you, but they never really got to spend a lot of time together. And they came to support me, but the artwork is what brought them all together. And that was just what I fell in love with it since that. So the next day, I just started creating new work, and then I haven't stopped since. So in a way, like I kind of look back at it as, if I never maybe would have came out some other way, or I would have, found it. But if I was never diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, I may have never found this art practice.
Yeah.
And now it was such a huge part of who I am that's almost, I look at it more blessing than anything. So it's been a long, crazy process, but it's been amazing for sure.
That's how you essentially take your story.
Yeah.
You take your story and you become like the champion of it, in that way. And it's funny because we speak a lot about like health, like in this podcast, and like, art has this beautiful thing of like having like, it's our documented history. It's how we document our legacy, our story, and we carry it on. Hence like archival and just putting it down just to express it and get it out. Cause it's a vulnerable space, man.
Sure.
I mean, like, not to get personal, but I mean, even within my music, man, a lot of I'm a natural writer. So, I used to write and win awards and, for all of my writings and such like that. And then when I just found out that how much I could, put it to a beat, and when it made sense, I would just let it go. And I mean, like, man, I used to get these stories, man, people DM me talking about how much my music, still to this day, like how much my music has like touched them or reminded them of this moment and this nostalgic moment, how it saved them. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, are you kidding? Like, this was just my, expression, you know what I mean? Like, how could that, but it means something. It validates, what it is that you do, and it motivates you. And the thing what you said about, even bringing in your people together and how that motivated you to continue, that's what drives, to continue to do it, because that's what it's all about. It's exposure to that. It's bringing those people that you love into that space as well too. And they may have nothing to do with it at all. At least they don't think they do. And then they get to see that, and then they get to spread their wings and meet other people and converse and get inspired, even subconsciously, even if they're not like digesting it, even if they're just in that space and they're just absorbing the energy. I think that that's good, in that sense. So,
and I feel like, speaking on that too, is that I feel that any creative, no matter what you're putting out, if you can see that, you might have found your creativity, your passion, your practice, whatever it is, but may have never known why, or like why am I musically talented? Why am I visually talented? Why am I great in writing, or whatever it may be? But the fact that you can inspire even just one person and change their life for the best might have been the reason as to why you were given that talent to begin with. So like I personally feel that everybody has a talent in some way or another. It doesn't necessarily have to be a creative outlet. It could just be, a calming personality. It could be somebody that's just good at mentoring or giving somebody guidance or whatever it is. It could be from cooking to anything. But the reason why they were given that talent was to then trigger or start something or give somebody else something powerful and impactful that much. So I feel like that's, something is, some people say they don't have, any type of talent, whatever it may be, but they do. They just haven't tapped into it yet, or may not even realize that they are already affecting somebody for positive.
Yeah, I mean, and some people are just talent themselves. It's not like the thing that they could do, is who they already are and who they are to somebody else, and in reflections. Because I look at the world as like a kaleidoscope. We're all just refractions of each other and emotions and things and experiences and all these things. And to be unauthentically like and unapologetically like yourself, it shines through, and I love that like we're in this space in the world right now where like the artists are finally getting that rod back. Like, you guys have been right the whole time. We should be painting, we should be reading and trading stories and writing and traveling and things like that, and taking time for like ourselves to be able to have conversations about the things that are most important to us and sharing our stories, because it is it's therapy, man, and it's sensory in every level, man, in every level, from visual to audio to every single aspect, and having it in a physical space is so dope, man. To have people be able to share this, and kids can see it, they can get inspired and take their little doodles and take it for wherever, around the world, and send letters and all these cool things. So this is dope. I want to like congratulate you guys like on this, like truly like having this and having more. I mean, like the West Side has always been like a great a great ground for like breeding in art, whether it be construction, whether it be physical art and music or whatever, you know. Even fashion, man. Like I kind of want to dive into fashion even a little bit, because like that's also my world too. I love it, man.
Do you know Chilio?
That's my brother.
Oh yeah,
That's my
okay. I was like, I bet y'all.
yeah, that's my brother. Like,
I used to hang out with him all the time over here at the old Go Farm before they built this whole new complex. You know, we just be chilling on the porch and stuff over there. And I love talking with him about his, yes, like starting a streetwear brand in Atlanta before everybody was like really doing that. You know,
man, like
he was a big mentor to folks. I really want to do, and you and I should talk about this more, you know, in the future. I really want to do like a fashion show here at the gallery, in some capacity, you know.
y'all heard it. So he wants to do it.
So that's something I like, since I started this place, I've been like, we got to do, like, just because I do think that's such a, like, an important part of the art world, you know, and I love seeing the creativity and yeah, in Atlanta, I feel like there is like a big culture of like people start their own clothing brands, and you know, there's like, yeah, I love that stuff. Like one of our neighbors here, 2 doors down here, runs like a screen printing shop. Really, you know, so they work with a bunch of, you know, big artists, and they've done shirts for me and done shirts for my band and stuff. And I just love how, yeah, I don't know. Clothing's a great way to like express yourself. It's also like good merchandise. People like buying clothes.
Yeah.
As a musician nowadays.
Yeah.
Most of your money
comes from t-shirts, colorful tees.
You gotta sell t-shirts at your shows. Like,
I mean, it's funny. It's always even been that way though, and like I think we're in a great space now because like everybody understands how important it is to have something physical, like that you can smell.
Yeah.
Especially like with the digitization of everything. Like I kind of cycle back. Like I come from the best of both worlds. We talking about Xbox. I come from like being able to play the video game and still go outside and ride your bike. You know what I'm saying? So like I have both, and I still have those video games. So like I know how important that stuff is to me, and like, you know, that stuff is being phased out, you know, like respectfully. So it's like, you know, even from like my shows, man, sometimes I go in the city, I go to little 5 Points, man, and I might see somebody wearing a t-shirt that I made 10 years ago and it's still pristine condition. Yeah. Where I look in my closet, man, this shit is torn up. I'm just like, oh my God, like somebody cares, you know what I'm saying? So, but this is when we're talking about that. We're talking about museums. We're talking about, you know, the library of archives, where, you know, you come with an original idea, you have something built, and then it still sustains. So when you talk about fashion, I love fashion in that aspect. I love the beauty of it. I love every ins and outs, like from Karl Lagerfeld to, you know, Issey Miyake, to all of these like gentlemen that like really like ushered in beauty in like culture and putting something from set design to music to lighting to all this like science, this chaotic just thing, just to bring an idea to a platform, you know, and have it be internationally, you know, respected and viewed, I think is dope. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about like Atlanta not having like a fashion scene. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
like,
come on.
Like, here's one thing I really wanted to speak about too when it comes to that, because
I guess it's not like people are thinking it like, sure, we're not New York,
well, they're
or whatever.
comparing it
But
to,
That's refined as another place.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue.
so this is the aspect that I learned, especially learning my culture and my heritage, being Native American and being African American, that, you know, we have a huge like region of like southern, right, southeastern. So it's based in Native Americanism. Even when you look at like Western, you look at denim, you look at leather, you know, a lot of it is based from farm life. And, you know, a lot of that stuff is, when you look at Westerns, you're thinking like, oh, cowboys and cowgirls and such like that. But if you think about it, before the Native Americans were shifted west, that's what was here in the fashion aspect, from moccasins in the East. So when I look at fashion today and I look at Levi's, I look at, you know, Beyonce having her branding deal with all this stuff, I'm like, yo, we have a fashion history here that is very deep, even in quilts and quilted things and quilted items. I mean, like, I'm seeing in real time. So like, and that's just one aspect. You know, we have graffiti artists here. We have a subculture here. You know, it's not always going to be mainstream. I think sometimes too the underground and the niche culture is in like the moms, the grandma homes where you find her quilting like a patch onto a jacket. Like that's what we have here.
Yeah.
And we don't call it fashion, you know, we just call it an expression. We call it heritage, but it is fashion, you know. So the fact that you appreciate that, you see that, like I see the same thing, you know. I wanted to pitch that for Atlanta Design Festival week. Literally like having a fashion show because I love Terminal West and King Plow.
Yeah.
Art Center. I seen that vision. I told my homie, I was like, yo, we need to be doing like something here. So it's crazy you say that. So we're gonna have to put that out there.
Oh yeah.
Also, I want to hear more about how you started the gallery. What was the impetus for you wanting to like even do it here at the Go Farm? Just kind of the industry, like you mentioned, being a musician, you know, wanting to create something that was visually that present an aspect of who you are. How has that journey been for you? And I'll just, you know, let us know a little bit of how you choose the artists, how, you know, you met Jay and so forth.
Yeah. So I had had a space at the Goat Farm already before I started Rampant Gallery. Pre-COVID, some friends and I had a studio here called Blue Dove Studios over there in the old buildings, where we did like we did photo shoots, video shoots, various kind of like production stuff for people. We also had a music space. They used to have like band practice rooms here, so we had like a little music studio room too. Then in I believe it was 2020, it was kind of like right before COVID or like right around when it started to pop off, the Goat Farm closed for renovations. And they were building all this, you know, and remodeling the old stuff. So when they reopened or were getting ready to reopen, they kind of reached out to a lot of the people who had a space here and were like, hey, we're getting ready to reopen. Wanted to see if you're interested in coming back, kind of. And so I decided I wanted to come back, but I wanted to try something a little different. And I had always like thought it would be really cool to run a little art gallery, you know, and I was coming at it from a very DIY perspective. Again, from the music scene, I'm used to doing everything myself, kind of, you know, and independent about it,
putting it together.
Yeah. So I was like, I really think I can do this. And I was like, I know a bunch of really great artists. I'm connected to a lot of great artists. My mom is an artist, and she was kind of part of this like arts group up in Smyrna. So I was kind of like getting connected to some of these art groups, and I was like, I think I can do this and create an art space for people to come together. And one of my primary goals with it was that I wanted to make art accessible for everybody. Because I did feel like, again, coming into the art world as sort of an outsider, like being on the fringe of visual art, I was like, all the artists I know are like very chill, like, you know, a lot of them are kind of like, not very like hoity-toity people, like pretty laid back, like, just creative folks who are trying to express themselves and, you know, aren't really thinking about doing this for money, you know, like, I mean, obviously if you're an artist, you want to make money off of your work, you know, and so I would see some artists were like really, better at marketing themselves than others, you know, but I'd see a lot of really creative people who I was like, this person's an amazing artist. They just, maybe need some help getting their art out there. And so, yeah, so one of my goals for this space was to really work with a lot of those up and coming emerging artists, give people a chance to do a gallery show, you know. So a lot of the artists I worked with, it's been either one of their first gallery shows or their first gallery show. So yeah, coming at it from that real sort of DIY underground ideology was sort of one of the foundations for Rampant. And I that name too, I picked the name Rampant because Rampant, originally I was thinking, okay, goat farm, like what if the logo was like a goat up on its hind legs? And in traditional like heraldry, you know, like a coat of arms and like medieval coat of arms or whatever, when you see an animal up on its hind legs, they call that rampant. It's like that's the position. It's like, yeah. So a rampant goat, I was thinking would be a great like thing. But as I started to talk to the goat farm more, I was like, oh, I can't actually use the goat in my branding because they have that's their thing. You know, I didn't want to step on their toes at all. But
mark purposes.
Exactly. But I liked the name Rampant, and the other meaning of rampant is, of course, you know, spreading unchecked, like, you know, and so I was like, that's the vibe. I want us to just spread and grow, you know, and it may seem a little wild to some people, you know, it may seem a little crazy, but
I mean, the goat farm is a crazy name.
It has to do though. As far as like, but it was the city. How do you feel like the theme that you're kind of presenting? Because I think it's an interesting, you know, topic. Like, this is a kind of a focal point in the Southeast for a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And people come from all these more rural areas. I mean, there's definitely cities of the Southeast that are getting, you know, more time, you know, in as far as like for like Lemlek, right?
Yeah.
But like Atlanta is really this focal point. So if it's something that's spreading out, how would you liken like that concept to like the Atlanta art scene, how the Atlanta art scene is growing, how it's evolving, and how people are, whether it's fashion, music, what have you, like people in the rest of the country are giving Atlanta more respect.
Oh yeah. So the thing I always say about Atlanta that I think is compared to, for example, New York or LA, you know, I feel like those are the two big cities people always talk about, like the arts and music and everything. So I think it is much easier to get noticed as an artist and to make it in some ways as an artist in Atlanta than somewhere like New York or LA, because in New York and LA, there's so much competition. Everybody for, you know, 60 years has been trying to make it as an artist in New York or LA, you know, whether you're a musician, an artist, an actor, whatever. Atlanta, it's a little bit of a smaller pond, so you can be a bigger fish. And I think it is really, you know, and again, I can't speak to this too much. You can probably speak to this more because you've actually lived all three of those places for a long period of time. But my experience from talking to people that I know around the country and seeing what I've seen in Atlanta, it's pretty easy to, like, Atlanta's a big city, you know, we got close to 6 million people or something in the metro area, but it's also, it feels like a small town, because there's
Like guys.
Exactly. Yeah. There's all these little like kind of sub pockets. Like if I go out in East Atlanta Village, I see like 30 people I know.
Yeah.
You know, if I go out in Little Five Points, I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? You know, it's a small town in this sense. And, yeah. And, you know, sometimes like, I don't really, you mentioned the high school thing. I don't feel like it's too like cliquey. There's a little bit of that sometimes I feel like, but it's like, overall, I feel like it's pretty accepting.
Sure.
Especially the art scene is very like inclusive.
100%.
I know there's some petty drama in the music scene sometimes for sure, but I think that's everywhere. You know, there's always something going on.
Yeah. I think like the high school comparison, I was saying like it's a small city. Yeah. It just has like everybody knows everybody in some way or another. And, you know, speaking about, you know, another thing that really, you know, drew me to Atlanta, even for years before I even actually got to set foot here and spend time here, was that when New York, you have a tremendous amount of creativity from all areas of the world that really just come to New York and try to make it in some way or another. And you have, you know, the musicians, and I mean, a lot of music started in New York. I mean, hip hop in general started in the, but then you have, you know, the fashion and the film and everything top to bottom. And the competition is crazy. But the thing is that the people that control each area of the industry is tiny. So it's very gatekeeping in that way. Because then unless you get the right contact, unless you get him the right gallery owner, or you,
It's who you know. It's all who you know.
That makes up the two.
lazy one. I think worse.
but like in New York, what happens is that you find your group of, to me, New York felt very small because everybody that worked in that space, the fashion, music, part space, we all knew each other in some way. But we were all supportive of one another, but we were all fighting for like the same spot.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say. Like it wasn't that people were against each other, but we all at the end of the day, we're fighting for that kind of position. And, you know, New York is, I mean, it's who I am. Like it built me as a person, started its rudder, you know, instilled in me. And I think what LA was different was just that, I mean, vibe is totally different, but it's just I feel like when you go into the art world out in LA, it's very spread out, but it's also controlled by the same amount of gatekeeping. Like it's just a few people that are making the proper decisions on, you know, who's the artists that are being exhibited in LA. Yeah. Like I was fortunate to have a couple shows out there, but it wasn't, you know, anything significant in a way. It was just like I got in, I met the right person at the right time, and things kind of worked out. And what I really liked about Atlanta was that the amount of creativity here in general is unbelievable, from fashion to music to photography to film to writing to, I mean, everything top to bottom. And as you were mentioning, is that the creative community here is all extremely supportive of one another, and they just want to build and just make cool shit happen. Yeah. But they all want everyone to do well. And that's what I love about it. And I do think that Atlanta can really be that it hasn't really given its proper light to what it is. And I feel that once the infrastructure is kind of like established, especially the artsy, as you get these galleries here that understand the business and understand the dynamics of how to bring the Atlanta artist out into the world, that's really where it's going to take it over. Like when you start, like even the Atlanta Art Fair, you know, this was the second year, and you can see it growing. No, it's saying it's going to be something.
Yeah.
But you're walking through, a lot of the people that are showing aren't even from Atlanta. Like it was a lot of galleries from, you know, like Tennessee or kind of the Midwestern side, like that. I guess Mid-East, whatever you want to call them, the central area. I might go judge. And then you had like some West Coast ones coming out too. It's like some, you know, some places from San Francisco and, you know, just random states out there too. But I feel that Atlanta, as soon as that art infrastructure is built here, it's going to be one of the main art hubs in general. And then, you know, you'll get in the design side, and that's just going to accelerate it more. I mean, you had film, you know, being in that film hub, but I know that's been pulled out because of, you know, tax racism, whatever it is. So that's a huge kind of something that's been taken out, but that means that there's now even more room for something else to come in.
That's a really good point.
Where I feel like the art scene could do. I mean, the music scene here, I mean, the Atlanta music scene is taking over the world.
I mean, yeah.
So like, it's not, you know,
It's like,
it is in some parts. I mean, in the hip hop side,
Yes.
I thought that there's so many other types of genres of music here, that can really start incorporating, and so that after space can grow is the main street. You know, again, that's really what a lot of other reasons too brought me to Atlanta. But the creativity aspect of it too is just a huge component.
And this is a special mention for both of you. How do you feel about, because I mean, I've been hearing from other individuals about people for galleries in New York, or even, you know, with Art Basel being in Miami, coming here to kind of scout for new artists. How do you think that's going to affect the progression? Because when I think about, I mean, I grew up in LA, so I've seen how the gentrification of those areas has affected a lot of, like, I think about like Highland Park or Silver Lake, what they were like 30 years ago, what they are now. How do you think that's going to affect the arts in here? Because what you're talking about is it's a really cool and safe space for people to explore, you know, is an interesting container. that you don't have in other areas. But as that, limelight does focus more on Atlanta, how is that going to shift? Because, I mean, you're new to the city, so I mean, I think you could speak to this, but Austin, since you've been here, for a while with JD as well, like seeing how these things are evolving, how do you think it's either how do you think this could potentially be maintained, or how do you think it might evolve in a way where it does become gatekeeping, right? So instead of it being, oh, anybody can come to Atlanta to make this an artist, well, we have to see, are you good at both?
Yeah.
One thing real quick with that. I think what's going to be important though, in order for that to happen, is people that are in Atlanta, that are Atlanta, need to build the infrastructure. Yeah, they're the ones that really need to kind of set the groundwork so they can establish it themselves and almost in a way be the gatekeepers, but not in a gatekeeping in a way as far as keeping creativities out. The ones that are, the mega gallery owners from New York coming here and just setting up shop and now basically making it another New York. And like it happened in New York too. I mean, we're going just like Brooklyn in general. I mean, Brooklyn 30 years ago, what Brooklyn is now, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And Soho itself. I mean, Soho was abandoned lofts. It's where all these amazing artists started because it was affordable. It was just like run down buildings, but they had the creativity. I mean, Basquiat's and the Warhols and everybody started in Soho. And then once it became gentrified and commercialized, all those artists were kicked out. And that started happening in Brooklyn. That started happening in everywhere in New York. So you have so many creators that had to leave because of that. But then you have a new kind of flux coming in, and it's very cyclical. It kind of goes in those cycles. So New York changes day by day. I mean, every time I go there to visit, it still feels the same, but doesn't. It feels like a new iteration of it. So I feel like with Atlanta, is that's where the opportunity is. I think the opportunity is kind of now. I'm a complete outsider, so I'm saying something off the complete rails.
I think you're totally right. Yeah.
But like, if, I think that's, where that opportunity is that people from Atlanta that are in the scene can build it.
Yeah.
If you build it, you're just going to attract these people to come in, but you'll still be able to control it from the inside.
That's why, I wanted to do this here.
Yeah.
Like, and I do think we're seeing right now, like, again, this goat farm renovation is like hundreds of millions of dollars went into this. And now they're building the Museum of Contemporary Art here. That's, again, going to be a huge draw for people to come here. The goat farm, since they reopened, has been doing their event site every year in conjunction with Atlanta Art Fair, Atlanta Art Week. That's been drawing in, huge crowd, international artists, a lot of attention on here. So I think they are building that infrastructure, and they are, some of the, I think the goat farm has done a great job, I think, of really cause they're kind of in a unique position here because it's a for-profit art center. A lot of art centers are like a nonprofit, it's like they get like public art funding stuff, or grant money. The Go Farm is for profit. Like they rent out all these spaces, they are a business, but I think that actually in some ways can help them in the art world because, I think again, with the remodeling and the renovations here, it is, maybe a little more like the old goat farm. I guess you never came here when it was before all of this was built, but the old goat farm was very like, it's a great vibe, but is very bohemian, very there were goats and
buildings.
These
really neat.
all these. It took kind of a different vibe. There were literal goats and chickens and llamas and stuff running around. Yeah, people would be running around barefoot. You would walk past and somebody would be doing a nude photo shoot outside. There'd be all they shot Hunger Games and Walking Dead here because it looks like a post-apocalyptic, wasteland.
Yeah, I used to live over here, so I've seen it change like full 360, which is why I'm still like amazed.
So the fact that it's now, it's very hip, it's very like modern, kind of almost. I feel like they're trying to appeal to a more like yuppie millennial crowd that maybe like has more money to spend on art and stuff. So I think they really know what they're doing in terms of that. Like the Go Farm I've seen it kind of grow from being this sort of like underground hippie artist community to really being like, this is like the hip place to go, and like some of the big cultural tastemakers and talent are doing stuff here.
We could look La Boheme here recently.
Yeah.
But
They're opera.
About like some of the artists, like I saw a really cool electronic visual event where I think it was a French composer and a French visual artist that did. I mean, I think they went to LA, but like there's a bunch of cities that they didn't go to, so I was surprised that they came to Atlanta.
Yes,
it's having more of like performing arts, but like avant-garde performing arts. Yes. That's when I first moved here. I didn't see as much. Like I mean, I know places like the iDrum, like that's where you can go for that spiritual of events, but it's nice seeing it kind of catering to a bigger audience and creating again that safe space for people to come and explore and show different things from different parts of the world. So again, like people who move to Atlanta from other, like, I guess, more rural places or like just parts of the Southeast that like don't get that level of attention, they can come here and know like, oh, you know, if I don't have to move to LA, I don't have to be to New York, I can move to Atlanta and I can have that same sort of experience, which is really, I think, really exciting because it's an interesting confluence of like all these different energies and dreams and aspirations that people are having, and that's what's building it. And that's one reason too I had the question earlier, because I want to see that protected, because I've lived in areas where that hasn't been protected, and I've seen artists who unfortunately suffered because they were having to deal with galleries that didn't have their best interest at heart. Yeah. And meeting more people who are trying to really make sure that the artists at the end of the day, like, they are able to make money, but also they're not put into contracts that are abusive. Because that's something I've heard some texts from people who I've tried to show at galleries in New York, that it's really, at the end of the day, it's about the money for them. It's not about like you as an artist or cultivating you or supporting you. It's like, no, I need to pay my exorbitant rent. None of this.
That's exactly it too. And they really take advantage of a lot of the artists and don't, like, look, I've had some managers in the past or people are trying to manage me, but luckily I had the know-how of contracts, because that's what I did a lot of that in my day job. So like I had, the understanding of it. So I just was like, no, we're not, you're not going to be my manager. Like, this is not happening, because based off the fact you presented me with this, like, we're not doing it. So there is definitely those, those individuals out there that are just about taking seeing the artist, building the moment, basically squeezing them for all the amount of money they didn't get by selling pieces, and then eventually just going to the next artist that they feel that they can market and build and do and what have you. So you only have a certain amount of artists that actually have these, long-standing careers, because they've been lucky enough to be able to navigate it in different ways, or find the right manager, or find the right gallery owner that isn't trying to, milk them or, just take them for anything that they could possibly get from them and use them and just get rid of them. And the music business does that too. I mean, I don't know how it is nowadays, but I mean, back before, when you get into these contracts, like owning your master, anything along those lines.
Well, now the good news is, at least musically, it's so much easier to be an independent artist and do everything yourself. Like, in fact, now that's the vibe. Like, that's what everybody is trying to do.
Especially here in Atlanta.
Even at a high level.
Yeah, especially here in Atlanta. Like, from the record shop, you can go directly to the record stores and put your CDs in there and get your analytics still and come back and do a tour, go to this venue, this person, and go there and really like hustle it, So that's I can vouch for that.
That's a big part of Atlanta too, I think, is the hustle mindset. Everybody here has like a side hustle. Everybody is building something. Like, everyone's on the up and up.
Even in film and fashion, I'll be the first to tell you, like, my friend, they did a film premiere at the Plaza Theater, Withdrawal, and they just got their DVD in Videodrome. And everybody's like hooray for them. They just did a full tour, won awards. I mean, like, it just doesn't stop. So that's a testament to the fact that Atlanta has the infrastructure to be able to do it. You just have to have the will, the team, and the creativity enough to be able to just go for it. And the message, because that failure that they dropped, it has such a deep message that it relies on the community. And it answers and asks the question, like, what is going on here in Atlanta how do we represent it and what is going on? And I think in every medium, we have the responsibility as artists to ask that question.
Yeah.
You know, what is happening right here? How do we display this in a creative way? And then how do we get that community to vibe with that? Because everybody wants to know, like, how can we do what we want to do and make it meaningful in this sense? Because that's what art is. That's what Keith Haring did.
Yeah.
You know, his whole foundation and everything that was created in New York. You know, it started from a street perspective and then grew so huge because the message was bigger than itself, and it just reflected the community. That's what it was. And Atlanta had the same thing.
Well, that's what, and going back to what you were asking a minute ago too, one of my big goals with this place, and one of the things I've really tried to do, is make it open to all different kinds of art and all different, you know, I think again, talking about gatekeeping and stuff, the art world, the one thing I've learned over the past, 2 years doing this is there is still a lot of that gatekeeping, I think, even on like a local level. But I think it's a lot of it comes down to business stuff. People want to make some money off of that. It costs money to run the gallery,
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into my financials and stuff, but it's like, you got to spend money to keep this going, and it's an investment. And one of my goals this year is to kind of expand the business more. I'm looking at taking some artists to Art Basel. I'm looking at building up my online sales and things like that. Adding more days that were open, during the week, because right now it's usually only open on the weekends or then like by appointment during the week. So finding ways to get people in here to buy art. But I'll say that for me, the priority is ultimately, it's about the art for me. I'm not doing this to make money. If I wanted to make money, I would be doing something else. This is because I care about this. I love working with artists. I love being surrounded by beautiful art, and I want to give artists who might not be as good at marketing themselves commercially, or their art might not be as palatable to a wide audience. I feel like there's a lot of my favorite art might be kind of weird to some people, some of the art might be kind of disturbing to some people, but I think that's one of the things that is great about art and that we need, is art should disturb, people. What do they say? Art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean that's where innovation comes from. Well, that's where innovation comes from. Being an architecture understudy. Some of my greatest are favorite artists. Even Jalen being my favorite artist, Tommy the Creator. One of the biggest artists. You look at his career, it's just crescendo, but it came out so niche and so disturbing that it was disturbing to a lot of people. But yeah,
he was controversial. Yeah,
but
old Odd Future stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God! But
Chris video was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God!
And a cockroach and stuff. Yeah.
Who else to this day has done anything? That
Illusion is just an unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. But it all comes from a drama, in a theater, in a classical standpoint. Because even till to this day, I'm looking at some of his references. I'm like, yo, this was plays. These were movies. These were films that you pulls your resources from. So I'm like, yo, you've been teaching us lessons this whole time that, some people may have called weird in high school or this or that and the other, so, it just, everything that is innovative, it comes from that standpoint of man, this is going to be left of center. This is going to be different, but man, it's here to stay,
Yeah. Going along with that too, the flip side of that, I think I talked with you about this a couple weeks ago. I remember reading that one of the kind of trends in the art world in the past few years is something called zombie formalism, which is
I always hear about this.
Is basically
seems so uncoy, but so apropos.
Yeah, it's called zombie formalism, and I guess the idea is it's like stuff. It's art that is like aesthetically correct, but kind of meaningless. It's like something that is like, you know, you can tell this person like went to art school and understands stuff, but it's kind of soulless. It's just like something for rich people to put up in their house as like a flex. It's not really saying anything artistically. And to me, that is like totally antithetical to what art should be about. Like, I want art to say something, you know?
Kind of be saying something, because by it being a movement of almost like consumerism, like
Maybe it's commentary. Maybe it's too over my head. Yeah.
they're ironic.
They're being like, that's like yeah, or it's like the like I do kind of I have to give a shout out to some of the like art world disruptor people like that, like the who's the person who taped the I was with Mischief, and whoever did the taped the banana to the walls as art does.
See that
Catalan.
Yeah. Like that's one of those where I'm like, all right, you found an amazing way to get rich people to give you $1 million. Like I kind of respect that.
He's like the epitome of like, oh God, how do I explain it? Like he does stuff just to like piss people off. Yeah, like that's his thing. I love it. He's been adopted. It's like the dude he was like main cultural decision makers in museums.
Yeah.
You know, collectors in the world.
Yeah.
Like he just makes wild shit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that's what he does.
Yeah, it's like the dude. That's cool. Like
Found his spot.
Like Banksy when he did the you remember Banksy did the thing where he sold it and then it shredded it. Yeah, like that.
It's like his one kid, one.
It's like this is what y'all are spending millions of dollars on. Like this could go towards healthcare.
Was that just also the in the face of Jeff Bezos? Did you guys see that?
Oh yeah, Basil. Yeah, no.
He was the one to get the little robot dogs.
Yes.
Bezos.
Billionaires.
Bill Gates, I think.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but he's also kind of one of those like, it's sort of like it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And then I think Damien Hirst, I think some of his pieces are like,
Oh yeah.
which I mean, there's definitely like room for that. But then when that becomes kind of commodified to where like those pieces are selling for $30,000, $50,000, then it's like, to your point, like it kind of takes it takes the soul out of the piece. But then depending on, I guess, how long that artist is, when that movement of art is existing, then it becomes ironic. So then you can be, tongue in cheek about even making that art because you're making a comment upon the comment. But then it gets so meta.
Yeah. It's like again, that stuff, the kind of like provocateur stuff, that's more interesting to me than the just like this is something that is kind of meaningless but like looks pretty, like and I don't mean even traditional, like for example like traditional like oil painting, like people who do real old school figurative stuff, like that's beautiful to me. I love that. That's classic art, or people who are real like your stuff is very like expressive and abstract, but I can tell that it's like coming from an emotional place,
for sure.
And you're expressing your thoughts and feelings, and it's saying something. What I don't like, and I'll compare this to music actually, like the zombie formalism stuff that I was calling it, it's basically so Berklee College of Music in Boston, people one of the best music schools in the world. But people talk a lot about they call it the Berkeley funk sound. And there's all these like bands that play in Boston where all these incredible musicians playing some of the most boring, soulless music you've ever heard. And they're shredding, but there's no soul to it. It's just like, oh, okay, you can play, 10 times faster and 10 times more notes than anybody else can. But it's not like saying anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I think that I've found that in music, in art, in film, a lot of times you'll see, not to say that people who go to art school are all like that, because they're not. Some of the greatest artists in the world went to art school and studied and trained for years under the great masters, you know. Same with film. A lot of the greatest directors did go to film school. But on the flip side, a lot of them didn't, you know. A lot of them just, like,
They pulled from a space.
Yeah, and when you just consume a lot of that art and music, then that is your education, you know, and then it's coming from a more soulful place rather than just, oh, I know all the theory, I can make something.
That was one thing that when I would do.
Perfect.
It is funny. I like when y'all was talking about Atlanta being like a high school. I always see it as like a university, more like an elite college, because it is like that. It's like both. I had a college and a high school experience in college. I mean, in high school, so I know exactly what you're meaning. And when I took like classical, like in high school, that was one of those things. And it's so funny because you was talking about how on your podcast, how y'all did like a deep dive on like spirituality and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We did a deep dive on like spirituality and like psychedelics and music. Nice. And I had did like a deep like PowerPoint on like, you know, like the effects of like different like psychoactives and like music, and like from edibles to like shrooms and like LSD and like the counterculture in like the 70s. Yeah. When that era, when a lot of people were pulling just from their spirits and like their community. And that's what I always liked about Atlanta. Atlanta has always felt like that like 70s like kind of era where everybody's like coming together for like a common like thing, even if they don't know it. Because what I realized about Atlanta's art scene is that like the beautiful thing about it is that like it gives and then you give back. It's like the soil, like you're literally pulling from the soil and then you put back into the soil. Yeah. And that's one thing that like I feel like a lot of different major cities, like I'm not gonna say they haven't been able to do, but like somebody is like controlling the soil flow in like certain cities and such like that. So like
it feels natural here.
Yeah, it just goes, you know, like you can see the most amazing art like right up the street. Like somebody who just like may have been homeless for 60 years and can paint like the most amazing things. And like, you know, somebody may walk them pass by because their head is somewhere, but like you talk to that person and this person knows freaking Andre 3000 and has done something from them. And like, you know, they're just like, they can tell you the whole history of the city. So it's just like, it just still has that human aspect to it, you know, where you're still brushing shoulders with a human being and not a robot, not another AI agent that's just trying to work to just sell this painting and do this thing. And like, that's what's kept me here. You know, I've traveled all around and like, I always come back here because of that, you know, but like, even when I go other places, you know, they recognize that and I synergize with that too. I think that's just like an Eastern Coast thing, like if we're talking like regionally, man, but like, yeah.
Well, like in this land, there's artists that I've met where like they don't have to have a very expensive studio. I mean, I know having a studio in New York or LA is very expensive. Even Miami.
Oh yeah, like your apartment. Every piece I've ever made has been out of my apartment.
Really? Yeah, man. You talking about a bedroom producer, bro? Like,
I just sort to buy a house out here, and then instead of having a studio, they just have, you know, the little shed in the back. I thought the people that's how they make their work, like, and they can have the kind of work that you know, don't have to worry as much about permits and so forth, because like you don't have a housing association, the HOA that's like in your business going, oh, well, I don't know if you really, you know, want to have a bunch of like metal pieces all around, or like your paintings are out for everyone to see. Like that's not going to make our, you know, our property value to us. So, I mean, I think from that aspect too, like
we just have more space than like New York, for example, like per person, like
but privacy too. Like you can do things in a way to where like it's not going to be as competitive because not as many people are going to have access to what you're doing. You just kind of come out of the work and be like, hey, like this is what I did. And I talked to more artists that have told me, you know, I don't live in the city. I live outside of the city because I'm able to do what I need to and to come in. And it gives you a certain level of freedom that I think that sometimes when you are like packed in, or you have to like worry about, oh my gosh, like my rent is like $3,000, you know, $5,000. Like, I can't afford to be an artist. That people here can say, okay, well, you know, it's not going to be the most like ideal situation, but I can get by here.
Exactly.
So I you know, I've talked to more people that have moved from California, have moved from New York, you know, have moved obviously from Florida, it's easier, but or Miami, because instead of having to compete with people in that way, they're able to go ahead and organically find a voice, have the wherewithal to find their voice. Because I'm curious too, like, how do you feel like FM is shaping your voice as an artist?
It's I see them all in already. I mean, it's just, I feel like the inspiration I have here, just like personally and in the environment, is unlike any I've had before. So it's really significantly changed me as a creative in general, just and as a person. So I do see the ball in. I think that, once this show kind of, passes, I'll probably start working on like more of because this is more telling a story of like my life the past few years. I think the next one I put together is going to be more of a cohesive kind of just story in general collection. So that's why you'll see there's a lot of work in this show, because I produce a lot of work. Like, I just can't stop. I just can't turn it off. I mean, I think that originated from, I had, just from that first gallery shows, and I had crazy imposter syndrome for like that first couple days. I was like, why in the hell? What am I doing? Like, why am I here? So what I did was that I made a promise to myself that first thing when I started, again, that I would make a piece every day, no matter what. Even if it's just 8 by 10 inches, no matter how big it is, I'm going to put a piece out every day. I did that for almost 3 years. So I kind of, believed in the whole 10,000 hours type of thing. Like back then, now I don't believe in it so much more. But back then I did. I'm like, I didn't go to art school. I don't have this training. I'm fully self-taught. I don't know. I'm just figuring out as I go. But I mean, I have a storage unit back in New York with a couple thousand pieces completed that I've never shown. I mean, some of them I've shown, but a lot of them I've never seen outside of life. No other eyes have seen it but me. And that was really me just putting the work in and learning and kind of understanding what my voice is. And that's where the black and white, how that all started. I feel like I've fully established my voice, I think, in the black and white. Like, I've almost perfected it, and so I know that it's me. It feels authentic. I think when I get into the abstract, it's me learning, evolving how to work with paint, because I never worked with paint until about 10 years ago. And I just kind of started figuring out what works for me. So I feel like the pieces are all very different, but still cohesive in a way. And even when you're looking at these, you can tell that it's the same artist, even though it's completely different styles. I hope so.
I want to ask about a pieces because, okay, so you said that the ones towards the right are the more like LA period, right?
Those first 3 there on the wall up and in the same kind of color tones, those are that very first piece there. The Posthumous Forgiveness song, which is actually named after a Tim Impala song. That was the first piece I created in LA and moved there.
Okay.
The very first piece. Wow.
What about the ones on the wall? Because I really like especially the one towards the bottom, like the gaze. It's a very intense gaze, but like, I'm just asking that is like, these almost feel like you're kind of like looking through, like it's like emotions coming out, but it's like, it's you seeing through also a window.
Yeah, those 3 actually, I believe, are all made here, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to go double check the tag on there, but it would say the city. I believe those are all made here. I have to get that. You're right. Those are all the NLP. Okay, right. Yeah, so those are named. So the first one there, that's Kind of Love. That's inspired by our Arcade Fire song.
Okay.
The one in the middle there is Reflections. That is inspired by a Flower Child song. And so where I believe he's actually bass carry. Yeah, Flower Child. Yeah, that was off of one of his songs. And then the bottom one is What I Feel, which is taken from a lyric from Iman, which is a Mustafa song. Was an amazing musician from Toronto, R&B singer. I got to see him live. It was literally when concerts first started coming back during kind of COVID, when you need to show like vaccination cards just to get into the venue.
Oh, yeah.
It was at church in Brooklyn, and it was one of the most unbelievable shows I've ever seen from a live performer. And it was just amazing. And his music in general is inspiring me a lot, but that piece really connected. So these are all kind of very emotional driven. The one in the middle there was inspired directly from somebody in my life. So it's kind of almost like a portrait of her in a way, even though I don't really have that skill set. It's kind of as close as I could. So yeah, those are all definitely very like personal, very relatable. Like I definitely know what those emotions were. The rest, I have no idea. Like it's really just whatever is inside me at that time just kind of comes out. And I think spirituality, the therapeutic component, is definitely huge for me as well. I mean, spirituality was always something big in my family. I mean, my mom and dad met on an ashram. Like my aunt runs one. Like they're very, very into yoga and meditation. And when I was a kid, I was like, what in the hell is this? This is some weird shit. Like, get me away from it. But as I got older, I started appreciating more like meditation's big for me now. And even just like the therapeutic component, I got certified as a mindful art teacher last year, just as something that I wanted to do, like our age stack and children and to adults as well, just as a way to kind of, bring in the kind of, therapeutic release in a different outlet. And one of the parts of, a mindful art expression is drawing to music, which I didn't even know. And so I started looking into what it was. So it kind of almost the connection was just perfect. It was like music is what fully inspires me to be creative. Now I see that it also can help, drive that kind of creative process to other people too that may need it. I think with kids nowadays, just a lot of them in general, I mean, having to deal with social media and just all these different things coming at them from all these different senses and just overload, that they need to kind of have that moment of relaxation to almost get by, which is insane. But I feel like that was kind of something that was interesting that kind of, eventually helped maybe some of these kids get better in artistic practice and creation. I did that back in New York. I did a after school program with New York Cares for 10 years. It was second and third graders. And it was just an after school arts program. And it was just all different types of activities. And I just absolutely loved it. So when I found this connection with mindful art and kids, it was like just a perfect marriage of, just something else I'm passionate about.
Are you going to try to do that here?
Yeah. I'm definitely want to do some here. I've done a lot of it online. I didn't be able to teach it in person. But yeah, I would love to. I know there's like a character on Park Center. I know they do some kind of programs there as well. I honestly want to do something with the Mocha once it's open. Like that'd be a great innovation to have, and I could just literally jump off my balcony, be in the BC. I'm like, Ray Fitter is crazy. Not that I'm jumping off my balcony. I mean, just saying it's close. But yeah, no, it's definitely something I want to put into that activation out of them down here for sure. That's beautiful.
One of my big artistic heroes, David Lynch, was big into the transcendental meditation and as part of his creative process. And he talked about how a lot of times you'll just get an image and you might not understand it or know what it means. He was like, a lot of the like kind of, images from his films and stuff that we remember, he's like, I can't explain what this means. I might know on some like subconscious level what it means, but I'm just showing you what has been revealed to me, sort of. And he notoriously would never talk about what his films meant. People would ask him, he'd be like, well, the movie is the talking. Watch the movie and you'll get it. And then people were like, I have no idea what this means. And he's like, sit with it a little bit, think about it. And I don't know, that resonated with what you were saying, that you're like, I don't necessarily know it, but on a subconscious level, it is you're expressing that. And I think I love that aspect of like the creative process where you may not, I think, I've read some like stuff about like Salvador Dali. I think he was another artist who kind of worked that way.
Did you see where I was talking to somebody about it, where he would like work in these like subdued like states, like these lucid states?
Yes, he would fall asleep. He would fall asleep to dream, and he would leave like a spoon or a cup or something on his lap, so it would fall over and wake him up after he fell asleep for like 5 minutes and had some crazy dream vision. Because when you dream, or when you nap, that's kind of when you dream the most. You have the most vivid dreams if you're just like barely asleep. States. So he would try to fall asleep, get some image, some vision in his dream, and then immediately wake up and paint it.
Yeah.
And he, again, wouldn't necessarily know what it meant or where it was coming from or what it was saying, but was like, this is pretty out there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Lynch is amazing to me. He's a fan of his work, and he's just a phenomenal creative. Was usually just a phenomenal creative in general, and even his visual art. And
I love his painting. Yeah.
I got to go to an opening of his back in New York years ago. Olivia told you about that. It was just like I didn't even know. Like I knew of his film, of his all his films, but I didn't know he was a visual artist as well. I remember when I got the alert for the opening, I was just like, Same David Litch.
And yeah, he started as a painter. Yeah.
I had no clue back then. And just going to that show and seeing it, I was just like, wow, this guy, it's just on a whole nother level. And even, I'm sure he knows, but he probably, some of the work he made, he's probably like, no.
I don't know what this means.
What do you think? I mean, and that's what I like sometimes too when I do the abstract work is that, I'll make something and I might see something in it, especially like, the black and white fine work. Like I might see something, but then another person comes and sees it and they see something completely different or resonates them in another way, or, they have a different feeling to that work. And that's what I love about it. And what to this day, what I plan to do for the rest of our career is that I don't want to make prints of anything. I want everything to be one of a kind. Original. If you have that piece, only you have that piece. I had no problem doing like...
That's your fashion mind, dude. Fashion mind.
Yeah, like
one of one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why even with this show, I have these smaller works. Those are all original pieces, one of one pieces. And I made them at an accessible price point because, maybe somebody that comes in and loves my work, but may not be able to, access the pieces that are a couple thousand. Yeah, but one of these and
get that little thing, and it'll mean forever.
Exactly, and it's still a one. They're the only ones that had that piece. I have no problem doing like mugs and hats, barrel and that type of thing. Sure, but as far as the art pieces itself, if you have it, only you have it.
Yeah.
That keeps it true to what it is. Like truly, like
because I want it to resonate, and I want them to feel that connection. I want it to resonate with that.
That's what I love about Atlanta, man. We kind of all feel that way. Like even in furniture, like we look at antique stores, like instead of going to like a home goods. I mean, I love home goods, but like you go to an antique store, you're gonna find something 200 years old, and this lady moved here out, but it's the story behind it, man. It's something in that wood. It keeps it sustainable to you. It keeps it like you can take your thing and you can add your niche onto it and clean it and do your thing. Like that's what it's about. It's like a car too, it's all these things. So we downsize on how much we're producing too at the same time. So we keep one thing sustainable, but we keep the integrity of the culture that we love. And that's how you keep something. That's how you have longevity, in anything that you do.
I don't think that's it retained, because that's what makes this area special. Coming from a different place in where you grew up here, JV, but like also you traveled, and like the more I think you travel, you have places that are special, like they become more so because you realize, how it's a certain amalgamation of like energies or intentions that create that, and we're not going to find it anywhere else, and that's why it's sacred. That's why I was wanting to know how you both see kind of this thing evolving, because I do want there to be a way of maintaining that energy, so that way people can continue coming, especially I would think because this isn't a very focal point in a place that is been known to be more conservative, where you can't really let your freak flag fly. Like maybe you can, you're from a small town if you live in the middle of nowhere.
Like Georgia, you mean?
Not just Georgia. I think about like my friends who live in Alabama.
Yeah.
I'll live in Mississippi. You're where you don't have the same leeway in most cases. And so being an artist, especially being someone who wants to make stuff that's disturbing, being taken seriously. Yeah. Like, okay, besides, well, depending on where you're from, people are going to judge you. But I think it's nice that people can come here and kind of get their feet wet, understand, okay, well, this is my voice, this is how I want to progress. And then if they want to jump and display at Art Basel, they could do it. Or if they want to go and display in New York or anywhere else on the West Coast, like they can do it in a way that I think, to your point, is a lot harder to do if you come from those more established areas where people have certain expectations, and it's harder to get your foot in the door. People are less willing to give you a chance. I think to JB's point, like it's really nice to be able to be in a place where people are, hey, like, everybody eats. Let's all come up.
Yeah.
Let's all help each other. Let's be a community as opposed to being just a business. Let's be a community to where we can support each other. We can give everyone a chance to speak their mind, to say, what they're feeling and what they want, their dreams, but in a way that pushes other people aside, and I feel like, I hate to say, growing up in places where they were a little bit more like that, there is more competition and you don't have that, and they're just kind of like, well, there's only so much space, you know what I mean? So I think it's really nice that isn't, I don't really see that here.
Yeah, I think with Austin and his gallery, what really kind of drew me to it was that fact. Like when we first met, I actually came across the gallery when I was looking at the apartments here and just noticed the name and then the panel on Instagram just reached out, just like, hey, I'll learn more about a gallery. But then I saw the different works he put on and different artists he put on, and I liked it. Like it was just a wide range of artists, and he gave them an opportunity. So when I had, when I wanted to do my first, I've had solo exhibitions before, but it's my first one in Orlando. I wanted to feel natural. So like that connection to me was like, this is perfect. Yes, this definitely works. Like for me coming down here and kind of just, being another artist in that mix of what he's put together and the story he's telling for the gallery as it evolves. I mean, because again, too, like the artists you have shown, and I know some ones that are more, other ones that are coming up, like it's great work. But again, it may not have been something that a traditional, like, mega gallery in New York that ever even opened the door for.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I've really tried to give a lot of emerging artists a chance and really, and yeah, again, I think I'm developing a reputation in the art scene here for being like the kind of like weirdo gallery. Like we'll try the thing, but the artists love that. Like, I think some of the other, gallerists in town, I think, are maybe a little perplexed by like what I'm doing almost. They're kind of like trying to figure out like where I fit in. But all of the artists I've worked with have been like, we love that you're like artist focused, like I'm not like, again, I am thinking about it like a business, and that is, again, like I've said, kind of one of my goals for this year is to really grow the business, and get better at, yeah, some of the just the marketing, and get the place sort of, you know, making a little more money so that I can continue to grow and build. But I love, it's like my goal for a show is not to sell the most art. It's to uh, create an experience for people, and so I will, like later this year, I'm working with an artist who kind of approached me and was like, "Are you interested in just like selling works, or can we do some stuff that's like an installation as well?" And I was like, "I love installations. Yeah, like I want it, again, it's experiential. I want people to come and feel something, it's not just about how much stuff can we sell, how much money can, like, that is the last thing I'm worried about in terms of an artist, doing a show here. I want them to,
And that's the thing too, is that, as this LA artist is, merging and growing, is that you've created your identity. So you have this unique proposition that all these other galleries don't have. So you basically can own that lane and build it out in however you see fit. So you can become that, the gallery owner that may show one conventional work, but people know that they could come here for the unique stuff, and they can come here for, something that may be a little bit off the beaten path as far as, design wise.
and I think sometimes that actually, it's like, turns out a lot of people are into the weird stuff.
That's exactly, that's the thing. And like, that's why it's so, what you've built and what you're building is so unique. And you have that, again, you have that value proposition, and you have that lane that you can pretty much own that corner of the market.
Yeah, that's the goal. You look at, just as an example, last year when I worked with Demo, Dacio Demo, amazing painter, one of my favorite artists I've gotten to work with here. And yeah, I think you said he's going to do your artist talk with you. He's going to,
What he said,
yeah.
you have to lock that down for sure.
Yeah, but demo stuff, I mean, some of it's very dark, very disturbing. The title of the show was Ojuju, and it was all about like evil spirits and sort of the the dark spiritual energies affecting humans, and sinful thoughts and all these things. He's got all these kind of like demon dudes lurking in the shadows. But and I was like, oh, I don't know, like if people are gonna be into this. Like this might be too out there. Like I'm not sure if it ended up being the most successful show we had done financially up to that point, and yeah, and the
Oh, yes, but I talked to him about the podcast as well. I mean, him and Daniel was part.
Oh, sweet. Another, number 5.
oh yeah, he's a great guy, amazing artist, and yeah, it just that showed me that like there is a market for stuff that other galleries might be like, oh, this is like too crazy for us, but people loved it and people bought stuff, and
But that's the thing too, is that but there is this art consumer that may not know where they fit in the art world, because they may go into a gallery if they do feel open to, and they just feel like they don't have that connection.
Yeah.
So when they find art that speaks to them, it's like, this is what I've been looking for. This is me. Same with music genres, the different artists that come out, is that you may not find this connection. All of a sudden you find somebody that are like, wow, this is exactly who I am or what I'm trying to say.
Hey, this is JV. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Intellectual Lifestyle Podcast.